The smartest person in the room almost never looks smart. And once you hear why, you'll never read people the same way again. We've been told the same story our whole lives. The genius is confident, loud, impressive. The smartest person always has the answer ready, always in control, always certain. But psychology research just completely destroyed that picture, because the traits that actually show up in people with extremely high IQs don't look like intelligence at all. Some of them look like weakness, some look like anxiety, and some look exactly like failure. Welcome back to Mind Unlocked. Here are 11 psychological traits that are secretly signs of an extremely high IQ. And I promise you, by number 7, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew. The first sign doesn't look impressive at all. They spend a lot of time alone, not because they hate people, but because their brain never stops running, and it runs best in silence. Research from the London School of Economics found something shocking. The higher someone's IQ, the less satisfaction they got from socializing. Think about that. For most people, being around others feels energizing. But for a high IQ brain, a room full of people is a room full of noise, and their brain needs quiet, the way an engine needs fuel. But here's the crazy part. Even when they're alone, even when the room is completely silent, their mind is still running. At night, during rest, during a conversation, there is always something processing in the background. A problem turning over, a theory building, a conversation from 3 days ago being replayed and re-examined. Neuroscientist Rex Young discovered that high IQ brains don't just think faster. They connect more regions of the brain simultaneously. It's like having 50 browser tabs open at once and not being able to close a single one. Now here's where it gets really surprising. We always imagine the genius is cold, logical, detached. But research says the complete opposite is true. People with extremely high IQs feel things more intensely than almost everyone around them. Music hits them differently. Injustice physically disturbs them. The suffering of a stranger can stay with them for days. A study in the journal Intelligence found that higher IQ directly correlated with deeper emotional reactions. They just learned to hide it so well that nobody ever sees the storm happening underneath. And this one will flip everything you thought about confidence. The smartest people in any room are the ones most comfortable saying 3 words. I don't know. Not as weakness, not as performance, as precision. Because here's what the Dunning-Kruger effect actually reveals. The less someone knows, the more certain they feel. But a high IQ mind has gone deep enough to see just how much territory remains completely unknown. The person holding every opinion with total certainty, almost never the smartest person there. But here's the part that nobody talks about. This level of intelligence comes with a quiet kind of loneliness. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a persistent feeling of nobody goes this deep. Psychologist Leda Hollingworth called it stimulus poverty, a mind that cannot find enough depth in its environment, so they hold back, they shrink themselves down. They sit through conversations that don't interest them, and a huge part of who they truly are never enters the room at all. Now pay attention here because this one is completely misunderstood. Highly intelligent people change their minds, often, and most people read that as weakness, but it's actually the opposite. Their brain doesn't treat beliefs like identity. It treats beliefs like working theories. When better information arrives, the model updates. Instantly, without ego. Without resistance. From the outside, it looks like inconsistency. From the inside, it's just a mind that cares more about being accurate than being right. The people who never change their mind regardless of evidence? Almost never the sharpest ones in the room. Here's something that will change how you read every quiet person you've ever met. In a group, the high IQ individual is usually the quietest one. Not because they have nothing to say, because they're collecting data first. They hear what's being said and what isn't being said. They notice who defers to whom. They see the real tension beneath the surface conversation. And then, when they finally speak, they usually have the most complete picture of anyone in the room. The quiet one isn't confused. The quiet one is watching you figure yourself out. But here's the crazy part that even THA can't explain about themselves. The work that matters most to them, the projects with the greatest potential, they can barely start. Smaller tasks get done instantly, but the work that could truly represent everything they're capable of, it sits, untouched, waiting at the edge of beginning. Researchers found this isn't laziness, it's complexity awareness. Their brain already sees the finished version in full detail. Every flaw it might contain, every way it might fall short of the vision already living in their mind. The procrastination isn't an absence of care. It's the crushing weight of caring too much. And this one is written directly into their biology. High IQ brains habituate faster, meaning what stimulated them yesterday barely registers today. Neuroscience links higher cognitive ability to stronger dopamine responses, specifically triggered by novelty and intellectual challenge. When that challenge disappears, the signal drops like a cliff. This is why they change careers, pursue 5 interests at once, feel strangely restless in situations that seem perfectly comfortable from the outside. Their brain isn't being ungrateful. It's running a constant search for something it was specifically built to find. Now here's the one that will genuinely shock you. The person with the highest IQ in the room is often the one most secretly filled with doubt. Not performing humility. Real. Persistent. Recurring doubt. Because the deeper your understanding of anything, the more clearly you can see everything that remains uncertain. Intelligence doesn't produce confidence. It produces a more precise map of how much you still don't know. The loudest, most certain voice in the room? Rarely the most intelligent one. The quiet one second-guessing themselves in the corner? Often carrying something extraordinary. And this last one ties everything together. Almost universally, people with extremely high IQs carry a quiet feeling, a soft, persistent sense that they are slightly out of sync. Not dramatically different, just a half step removed from everything happening around them. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying the greatest minds, and what he found was this. They almost all described their inner life as the hardest thing to explain, the hardest thing to share. Not because they were suffering, but because they were experiencing life at a level of detail that most people around them simply weren't. And when you see the world at that resolution, ordinary life stops being able to fully reach you. Here's what nobody tells you about extreme intelligence. It doesn't look like confidence. It doesn't look like certainty. It doesn't look impressive in a room. It looks like solitude. It looks like sensitivity. It looks like sensitivity. It looks like someone who never quite fits. But underneath all of that is a mind processing a version of the world that most people will never get close enough to see. So the next time you meet someone quiet, someone uncertain, someone who never seems to fully belong anywhere, look closer. Because what looks ordinary on the outside might be carrying something completely extraordinary on the inside. If any of these traits felt like they were written specifically about you, that's not a coincidence. That's Mind Unlocked doing exactly what we're here to do. Drop a comment with the trait that hit the hardest. I personally read every single one. If this gave words to something you've been quietly carrying, share it with one person who needs to hear it today. Like this video, subscribe to Mind Unlocked and hit that notification bell, because tomorrow we go even deeper. See you there.